moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As you know, we have one item on our agenda today, which covers the future of the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Washington County campus. I believe you would have something to say about that, Mr. Executive.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today. I'd like to just walk you through some of the meetings in the last couple of months. Hopefully you have sufficient information in your packet to fill in some of the more finer details. But to summarize everything that's happened essentially over the last year, I know a number of you attended the county executive and county board meeting that had occurred a year ago, the first maybe ever, but certainly in many decades, long time. And then we had another one just recently. I know a number of you were there as well. You may recall from that first conversation, we were looking for a way to achieve what I referred to as the Washington County Social Capital, which would have required an anchor tenant to lease a large portion of the campus building and cover the bulk, or ideally all, of the operating costs of the property, and any additional tenants would be able to cover the capital outlay costs. Those things combined for us are just under $1 million a year. 900,000 is probably a closer number. We have gone through an exhaustive process since that meeting, which has been widely reported on from a number of venues. The task force that I established was the second task force on the subject matter. As you might recall, that group was asked to work through a number of letters of interest that were submitted. We asked any interested party to put forth both a letter of intent and a letter of interest, specifying what precisely they wanted to use the space for, how much space they needed, and what kind of dollars they intended to be able to put forward towards those things. I want to say we had 7 or 8 proposals that actually filled out any kind of paperwork, but really there were only 2 that had sufficient dollars attached to them. One of them was actually a combination of offers. They are separate from one another, but they work in conjunction from my vantage point. This is the lens that I'm looking through. The other was a more of that lease arrangement, would act as the anchor tenant. That anchor tenant proposal came from a group called Excel Education. They're a national charter school. They've offered roughly $800,000 a year for about a third of the building, and the rest we would be able to utilize. Subsequent to their proposal, the school districts and at the same time, we're working through a number of proposals. Some of you remember the executive committee met in January and heard from the superintendent of the West Bend School District specifically on kind of a laundry list of different ideas the superintendents as a group were brainstorming. None of those brainstorming efforts ever came to fruition in terms of actual letter of interest with dollars attached. The school districts collectively, at least a number of the superintendents, put together a 7-page or so memorandum with a list of all of their ideas. At the end of that list, it essentially says they might be able to pursue and achieve some of these within the next 3 to 5 years, funding to be determined. So aside from that, you're left with those 2 proposals as I laid them out. The one that I am recommending to you tonight, I recommended to the executive committee last week, and you may see or have recalled their motion was to recommend the same to this body, is to sell the building and the property, the building to Ozaki Christian School, with the immediately adjacent property and the, I'll just call it additional property to Cedar Lake Conservation Foundation. Just as a quick summary and reminder, I think most of you have been out there, but for those who haven't, and for our listening audience, there's an 80-acre property that we're talking about. The building itself is 200,000 square feet, just under that, 198,000 for those keeping score at home. And the bulk of the property of that 80 acres, roughly 60 acres of it, is largely unbuildable. So while I say we have two separate and unique offers for purchase, I see them working together because they're very integrated. So the two offers are this, the building and the immediately adjacent property, including the soccer field and the parking lots attached. Ozaki Christian School is interested in purchasing that. If you read their letter of intent and their letter of interest, they're actually willing to purchase the full 80 acres. They are also willing to allow for Cedar Lake Conservation Foundation to purchase the surrounding just under 60 acres. That is more of a natural and environmental interest at a price reduced from Ozaki Christian School $3 million offer. CLCF's offer could work in conjunction with Ozaki Christians. If they do, the offer comes back up to $3 million. That was a long and complicated explanation, but I do want to emphasize they are separate from one another. They could be handled separately. I am treating them as one. In addition to that, I think many of you know we had initially gone to the state of Wisconsin in the last biennial budget process asking for over $3 million to try a pilot project, merging the resources of the UW and the technical college. That made it through the legislature, was vetoed by the governor. Subsequently, legislation came out for a number of counties, allocating $2 million for 3 specific counties and enough for $2 million for other counties that saw closures. We have some expenses already assumed for the last year of operating the building without mothballing it. And we have another approximately $1.6 million if we're going to sell the building for that electrical upgrade that you've approved in the past. It is my anticipation that the state will reimburse those expenses once they happen. Therefore, the way I look at it, we have $5 million coming in the door that a year and a half ago we weren't going to have, which happens to be the appraisal price of the property that we did following the very first city council and county executive committee meeting. So I want to emphasize that I fully endorse and support and ask you to support as well the sale in both forms to Ozaki Christian School and to Cedar Lake Conservation Foundation. Before we're done today, I am asking for 2 things. I'm asking you to make a motion to authorize or direct the county executive and the county attorney to negotiate the sale as spelled out for a price not below that which we've just discussed. I'm also asking you to authorize the county attorney and I, and whoever else you choose, to make an offer to the city of West Bend for 26%, which is their portion of ownership of that total sale price, which again, from my vantage point, is $5 million. I do want to mention, I have had a lot of feedback from the community in about the last 2 to 3 weeks. Some of you were at the Q&A session that we had at UW campus's gym. Others of you were kind enough to show up to listening sessions over the last 2 days. I think I had 5 of them, 4 of them for sure. And there was a lot of feedback. Some of that I'd like to share with you in closed session because they're negotiation items. But there are things that have been publicly discussed, such as things we have done in the past with property sales, reversionary interests and right of first refusal and things of that nature. Also, of course, negotiating sale prices. But one thing that I did want to share with you that I thought was logical and was worth talking about, it didn't get a lot of time at the task force to be discussed. But there are other counties that are doing this, so I thought it was worth sharing, and I told a group of people that I would share it. One of the proposals from these citizens was to simply take the $2 million from the state and tear the building down, and have it basically be natural or park space, whether it's in partnership with CLCF or the city or whomever else. And I'll just summarize. I asked them to send it to me in writing, and I'll just summarize the resolution they are seeking. That uncertain financial and liability issues associated with the sale of this property be permanently and in fiscal responsible manner settled by using transition funds provided by WEDC, the $2 million, to demolish the building, and the city of West Bend and CLCF determining final disposition and sale costs of the remaining land, which is a different, more legalistic way of saying the same thing I just said. I think it's perfectly logical. It's largely what our neighbors to the south in Waukesha did, and now in partnership with the city of Waukesha are actually redeveloping and putting housing on it. They're advocating for park space. I get the logic. I can see why somebody would settle on that logic. I personally just think it's foolish. We have a perfectly good building that can be utilized. We have multiple parties that are interested in utilizing it similar to or in excess of what we've asked for. And in the end, the city and the county accept $5 million. I think we should take it. That's my recommendation to you, and I'm sticking to that recommendation. I'll finally just end this way. I think a lot of you know that a lot of the conversation in the last 3 weeks has been quite emotional and quite spirited. You can't blame folks. It's been 60 years of owning that property. It was a partnership started and initiated by the University of Wisconsin. I don't think anybody, even 5 years ago, really anticipated it'd be a full pullout the way that we saw just over a year ago. There's a lot of folks who started their lives there, started their livelihoods there, started their families there. So you certainly can't blame them. And it's a darn shame that we've allowed this conversation to become a fight between public schools and voucher schools, because it shouldn't be that. It's not that. I'm very disappointed in some of the individuals who've made it that and made it very visceral at times and completely inappropriate at certain moments. I look at whether it's Cabrini, whether it's St. John's Lutheran or Good Shepherd or Kettle Moraine Lutheran or Living Word or Ozaukee Christian. These are schools and people who are from Washington County. They are our neighbors. And it should be noted, whether Ozaukee County or Ozaukee Christian School, whose name I hope changes, by the way, moves to the UW campus or not, they are going to build and expand. This isn't if we can just kill it, we're going to stop these people kind of an issue. And even if that were the case, it's horrible that people feel that way. I recognize that the school funding formula sucks. I get that the way that we've established voucher funding in all these different buckets is not an ideal scenario. But that is not anybody in this room's fault. This is not anybody from this county's fault. It sure as heck isn't Ozaukee Christian's fault. It's no one's fault. This is the highest and best use for a building that over 6 years was literally built as a school. It literally have chalkboards and basketball courts and everything schools have. I'm excited that we have somebody who is willing to take it and continue to utilize it for education and hopefully provide some access to the community for many years to come. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that sometimes I have learned in the last 12 years, the way to save something is to sell something. And this is that case, once again, in front of you. So my recommendation is what it is. I won't repeat it to you, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have them. I turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll add before we go any further that the executive committee in the meeting
jointly with the West Bend Common Council did vote unanimously also to sell, as you just said. Supervisor Bosser.
Okay, I want to ask one point of clarification, and then I got a couple other questions as well. You mentioned an electrical upgrade. My understanding is we're actually just repairing the electrical system from the damage that was done. Upgrade may not be quite the right word.
Sure.
Is that accurate, that all we're doing is repairing the damage?
Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I would call it maybe a replacement, might be a better terminology. You
Yeah.
have old equipment that's in the building needs to be upgraded to new equipment. So I mean, it's kind of semantics type of thing. However you want to,
Yeah.
different people might say different things, right? Are you updating it, upgrading it? I would say, yeah, we're upgrading it to today's technologies versus 1960s technologies. So you could say it's getting upgraded, updated, but not really greatly
Yeah.
improved, making sure it still functions what they
Yeah.
need.
But there is a significant repair element too, with damage that's been done due to an infestation, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whole system need to be replaced, yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's one thing I wanted to touch on. I know there's been some community concern over the assessed value at 5 million. But with assessed values, my understanding is when a commercial property is vacant for an extended period of time, the value is going to significantly decrease. And my understanding as well is that that assessed value is based on its use as a college. Are both those accurate?
I think so, yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Their appraisal is definitely based on it being used as a school.
Okay, yeah, but specifically as a college, because I think when we think of high schools and grade schools, there is some renovation that needs to happen.
Undoubtedly, yes.
Yeah, I mean, high schools and grade schools don't need big lecture halls like colleges have.
Right.
So, yeah, and they don't need lots of offices for college professors. So, yeah, okay, I think that hits on the key points that I wanted to make here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have comments? Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going through this process, I've had the unique opportunity to spend some time out in Richland Center. Richland Center also had a 2-year college, which was very much this same situation happened to them. And we know as well Fond du Lac and Waukesha. I think Washington County must be certainly God blessed, because I tell you, the other ones would love to have the situation that we have. It's unbelievable. Rarely in government do you ever see a win-win-win. And what I'm talking of is Ozaki Christian School bought some land. They were going to build a high school. That's their plan. Instead, they got a much better building that's already pre-built with much more than they could have probably afforded to build for quite some time. They get it a lot quicker at a better price. The taxpayers of Washington County are going to be off the hook largely unscathed because of this compared to the other counties. And the CLCF, Cedar Lakes Conservation Foundation, is going to take control and save some of the watershed for Silver Lake. And from what I understand, their intention is to kind of make that sort of a public trail thing. That's kind of one of the ideas they're kicking around, but not going to quote them on that. But it certainly saves for the environment. So I see this as just a huge triple win for our county, and one that, like I said, other counties would have loved to have had. We are truly blessed to have this. So I encourage your full support of this plan. Thank you.
Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Forgive me, I don't know the details as much about it, but with the shared ownership with West Bend, you just stated before that the executive committee and the common council had a joint session. Can you recap that again for me, exactly what's coming of that? Because I'm not aware of them actually approving a sale from the common council perspective.
Yeah, so the common council didn't take a vote. The executive committee did take a vote. The common council did not take a vote, nor was it on their agenda to take action at that meeting. But what I will say is the mayor made it explicitly clear, and the members who were there can correct me where I go astray here, but he made it explicitly clear, we are a minority silent partner in this. We are going to follow the county board's lead, and he spoke very favorably about OCS as a neighbor. And that was kind of where he left it. He did also note the importance of city zoning on that property, meaning you couldn't just sell it to OCS or anybody and they flip around and sell it to, you know, a retailer or something like that. So he did make note of that too. I have subsequently met with the mayor and the administrator to understand exactly where they were at. I made it very clear to them that I thought I would, and we were asked specifically, or I was asked specifically by Alderman Sternig, what dollar amount we looked at as the full offer. And I said 5 million. And then he asked specifically, does that mean 26% of 5 million comes to the city? And I said, that will be my recommendation to the county board. So they did not take a vote. They did not have a motion, but they are expecting this board to approve the sale, and they're expecting something to come to them to consider and take action on the 8th.
Maybe council can advise more on if things don't go per plan. But I would feel much more comfortable if we would already have our partnership agreed upon with whatever happens here before we accept offers. Otherwise, we're going to get if we get in a position of accepting an offer, and then all of a sudden, if there's a majority of council, then councils can do what they want, separate from the mayor. It's just not going to play well. So I'd rather work out our joint partnership first before we formally accept offers.
I agree, and I think we should discuss exactly that in closed session.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? I'll throw in 2 cents also. In the public information meetings, there was a lot of talk about the Fond du Lac County campus, which also closed. I had an extensive discussion on the phone with the county clerk from Fond du Lac County on Monday to find out just exactly what the facts were. They had one building that the campus was made up of several buildings. One building was redone for their parks and conservation, land and water department, which is similar to what we are doing in this building. There's another building that has been repurposed. MPTC is teaching police training there. And I believe that they still own the building. MPTC is just renting it from them. The theater and commons remain public entities. They're doing weddings, and the cafeteria is open daily for anybody over there. So the repurposing has been done, but it's all county government. You know, the parks department that they moved in and social services were in separate buildings that they were renting or they owned, but now they've sold. So similar to what we might do. So, you know, it isn't all roses up there either. Most of it is now government buildings. So, Supervisor Troutner.
I just wanted to echo the county executive's comments that I think this is has just been a very emotional thing for people in the community. My experience with UW-WC was I'm a musician and I was part of a community band there. So every Tuesday night we would go there and, you know, play with the band. And so it's something I miss, and it's sad that the college has left the community, but they have left, and it is not the county's fault. You know, that really we've had nothing to do with that. So I have received numerous emails and phone calls. A lot of people have been following this very closely. I did tell one of the people who's come to meetings and has been following this for the past year. He was hoping that there would be some way that a decision could be delayed. I don't know if that's possible, but because I mean we have an offer right here, but I did want to share that in case anybody on the board has any ideas that would be a better offer, just to open it up to other people. But there's been so many misconceptions about what, you know, the whole history of this. You know, the county and city purchased the land. It was not a pure donation. It and all of the voucher things have been, the county has nothing to do with that. That's a separate issue. So, anyway, those are my comments on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gallitz.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I'm not following the math. I do not see a proposed sale price of $5 million. I see a proposed sale price of $3 million.
Yes.
That's the only revenue that's coming from that. So a couple things. One, I think we do have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers, all of us collectively. And selling a piece of property at 60% of its appraised value, to me, is egregious. That's my opinion. And I suspect all of you, if you look at the definition of egregious, that would be in that category. 40% less of its appraised value, that's egregious in my opinion. So that's number one. Number two, if it truly is a $3 million sale, that amount to West Bend would be 26 of 1 point, or what is it, $800 some thousand, if I can do my math, not 1.3. I don't know how we can say that West Bend would get 26% of $5 million. The $2 million the executive said as part of this quote unquote revenue is from us taxpayers, Wisconsin taxpayers, and that money is allowed to address the closing of that campus. So use the $2 million to do the upgrade to the electrical and some mothballing and other stuff, but to say that's part of the sale price, that's disingenuous in my opinion. It's $3 million that the offer is from Ozaukee County School. End of discussion. So to sell that to the highest buyer, yes, I fully agree. Get it off the county. Actually, I prefer get on a tax roll. You know, think of the revenue West Bend, who is sorely in need of revenue. If you had something other than a 501c3 that is purchasing that property, because they don't pay any taxes, but they use all the West Bend services, or will be using West Bend services. So that's a whole nother story. Again, bottom line, I cannot vote or support a $3 million sale price because I believe it's egregiously below its assessed or appraised value. And then also I couldn't agree to the amount that's going to West Bend because whatever that 26% would have to be the check written for the sale of that property. Thank you.
Supervisor Bossert.
I know it's easy to get hung up on the $5 million number, and I appreciate all of Supervisor Gallitz's comments. But it's important to recognize that an appraisal is an estimate. The real value of anything is what somebody's willing to pay for it. As an example, Colin Kaepernick. He found out the hard way that what he appraised his talent at was not what any NFL team appraises talent at. There were plenty of teams that were willing to sign him, but they weren't willing to pay him what he thought he deserved. And he ended up out of the league because of it. We've had this property vacant for a year. We've had exactly one offer to purchase it. People are worried about the 60% amount. I'm going to share something that's open record that people, if they want to dig, can find out. I bought my own home at 65% of the city's appraised value of it. you can fact check that. That's a fact. If we hold on to this building, hoping for a better offer, it may be penny wise and dollar foolish. There's plenty of commercial properties in West Bend that have sat on the market for a long time. If we look at the old Walgreens, it used to be on the corner of Decorah and Main. That building sat empty for several years. And then Quick Trip bought it. They demolished the building. They really only wanted that land. The Shopko building, how long did that sit vacant? The old Pizza Hut, that became a Dunkin' Donuts finally after sitting vacant for years. We got a KFC that's vacant, an Applebee's that's vacant. The old Pick and Save North was vacant for a while and it's now been repurposed, but at nowhere close to the value that it used to be. If we get too hung up on this 5 million, let's say we hang on to the building for 3 years. At $600,000 a year, that's almost 2 million to hang on to the building. If we still don't have an offer, maybe we decide to raise it. To raise a building that big, that's going to be probably 3 or 4 million. I'll let Josh correct me if that's wrong, but I'm thinking 3 to 4 million there. So now we're at 5 to 6 million. And then once we raise it, maybe a developer says, okay, based on the number of lots that are buildable, which isn't going to be a lot, I'll give you 1 million for the land. So now instead of getting 3 million, we're getting 1 million. We're $7 or $8 million behind because we tried to hold out for another million or two. I'm of the opinion that this is a good deal, and if we sit on this, I think we're going to regret it. If we're in essentially a traffic jam right now, and this is our off ramp, and we should take it. So that's my view. I hope everybody else will support selling as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I kind of have a sort of a disagreement with Supervisor Gallett's assessment in the fact that the 1.6 million for the repairs that need to be done to the electrical system, we've already set aside that money. That actually got set aside about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, because we had every intention of getting that out for bids and getting it built and getting it done. So we're on the hook for that. We already spent it, other than the fact that just so happened that all this came up with the state, where they decided to close the school, and we put a quick freeze on that money because we didn't know what was going to happen with the school. We might have to raise it, we might have to sell it, who knows. Now it's been sitting vacant for a year. We've also spent, we've allocated at least another $500,000. I know that we've approved that. So I don't know what the final total is going to be for the maintenance, the gas, the electric, the water, and all the other issues that you need to keep that building surviving. So already we're into it for about 2.1 million minimally. Okay, so but that's money, that's our liability. That's our money that we have to spend. But thankfully, as I stated before, but for the grace of God, the state did step in and say, hey, we'll give you basically $2 million in transfer. So we're actually going to get reimbursed for that money that we're having to lay out, the 1.6 million for the electrical repairs, as well as the $500,000 or so for the need for the maintenance and sustainability for the building. We're very fortunate to have that. Now, keep in mind that the deal with the city is 26%. They were a silent partner, but their silence comes at a price. And that price was that we agreed to take on all the responsibilities of this building. Okay. So we are going to follow through with those responsibilities. We are getting reimbursed by the state, and the city is entitled to their fair share, which by contract, they kept their mouth shut. They kept out of this process. They do deserve what they have coming. So that's how I see this. I hope you see it the same way. Thank you.
Supervisor Krieger Gundrum.
We're talking about how to value the property. I don't know if you remember, 5 years ago, we had the big box store argument about what a property should be valued at. And, you know, an empty building is not worth what a building is worth when it's filled. I think to wait too long will fall into that same big box store argument. It will lose valuation the longer we wait. And in the meantime, we'll be picking up all of the upkeep and maintenance on the building. Which I don't think we really want to do. That would just add more cost to the county taxpayers. Thank you.
I'll add that it's been about 14 months now that building's been empty, so the clock continues to tick. Carol Mary, online, do you have a comment?
Yes, sir. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
I'm not a bean counter, but very roughly, I think the building right now is costing us about $1,000 a day just to sit there. So I think we need to do something. Thank you, sir.
There's been several mentions about a closed session. There are a number of things that we do need to discuss in closed session. So take a motion, Supervisor Krebs, Supervisor Schultheis. We'll roll call, starting with Supervisor Marietta Bailey.
Aye.
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 Aye.